Hello everyone, this is Cari for Redesign with Prima, and I have part 2 of my ornaments that I created for you guys. The first one was with gold leaf. This time I'm using a little something different. So I'm using the Bright Baubles Decor mold, and I poured clear resin into the mold to make my castings. Now, instead of using gold leaf like I did last time, I'm using our Metallic Sheen acrylic paint in blush chrome. This paint is really super beautiful. It's very shimmery, and it does go onto shiny surfaces really well. You can use this for hardware, you can use it to enhance details on any projects you like, and I decided to add it to the back of the clear resin ornaments. I just dab it on with my brush and make sure that the coverage is nice and even. And instead of using like smooth strokes with my paintbrush, I'm just dabbing it. That way there's no strokes or stroke marks that show through the resin once it's dry. So I like to dab it on like this and just make sure that the coat is nice and even. I even hold these up to the window with the light to make sure that the entire surface is covered, because sometimes it looks like it is, but it's not always the case. So I do touch it up once it's dry. I let it dry very thoroughly. It dries very quickly, maybe within a half an hour, but I tend to leave it for a couple hours to make sure that it's on there nicely, especially if you live in a humid area, or you're working in an area where things don't dry as quickly. Just leave it for a couple hours, let it set, and then you can get to work on the rest of it. I also wanted to mention that the metallic sheen comes in other metallics. So like a really beautiful silver, a bronze, and a champagne. So very soft, light metallic colors, very beautiful. Okay, next I am adding our H2O transfers. These are called Nostalgic Blooms. So they're really delicate, pretty pink roses and little garlands. And I'm sort of, putting them down to make sure I like where I'm placing them. I do change my mind a little bit on the other one, which you'll see in just a bit. This is a beautiful little cluster of roses that I wanted in the center of this ornament. So I lightly mist the surface, put the H2O transfer down, and then I add more water. So I let that water really soak into that transfer nicely, and I kind of rub it in. You want to make sure that you don't move it around if possible, because it will fold up on you, or it might kind of move and look crooked. So just spray it, kind of pat it down, and set it off to the side. Now here I'm just cutting around the one transfer I want to add to the middle of it, of the ornament. And I do cut off little pieces, but I'm not too worried. I do use those pieces later, and I will show you how. And this transfer, it doesn't go all the way down like to the edge, to the sides of the ornaments, which is not a big deal because I do something around the edge of the ornament later just to kind of hide that anyway. So if it's not perfect, you don't have to worry. Again, peel off the protective sheet, mist the surface, mist it again, and just kind of press firmly and try not to let it move if possible. And I just let it rest for a few seconds. And actually these transfer really quickly. So very easy to use. And here's the other one I did before. Yes, it came out perfect. Now it doesn't go all the way to the edge. So I decided to use those little cutoff pieces that you see on the side there to extend it all the way across. So when you build them together, you almost don't even see like where you left off and where you started. You can layer them just beautifully. So this is the part where I take those little pieces I cut off and bring it to the edge of the ornament. So I'm just layering, and you really can't tell where one begins and one ends. They're so thin, like skin thin, that they just layer over each other really nicely. And I think that's very user-friendly. And, you know, you can have fun with this. You can build your own little bouquets. Now on this pretty little teardrop ornament, I decided to go with the very small roses in the set. There are quite a few, so you have a lot to choose from. You have a lot of choices with these. So I grabbed the littlest roses that are separate in the set. And I wanted to put a 3 to start and kind of scatter them over the ornament and get those set. And then what I end up doing, there's a little bit of white space there. So what I end up doing is cutting one of them in half, just like you see here. And I add them to those spaces where it just needed a little bit more. So cut it in half, put it down, and then just go ahead and add it to the surface. Next, I'm using our Metallique acrylic paints. This one is called Red Wine. It's very shimmery, highly concentrated, and just a tiny bit of this paint goes a really long way. So what I wanted to do was create sort of a layered effect with this and a gold, because I didn't want the red to be too stark. I wanted these to be nice and light and soft. You can certainly use the paint on there just as you see it now, but I wanted to lighten it up just a tad, and I just go in with a baby wipe and remove the excess and just make sure there's a nice thin layer, and you can still see that pink come through also, which is what I love. This paint is very user-friendly. It comes in several colors, and I just love using it on things like this. And it's amazing how well this paint goes over the resin. It really does. And it's so smooth and so fun to use. I wanted to make sure I highlighted this really pretty bow at the top of this ornament. And I just go in very carefully with my Finnabair brush. I love these brushes. I know I've talked about them so many times in previous videos, but that flat edge right there just really helped kind of get into that groove nicely and evenly. If you do get it on some of the surface that you don't care for, you can take a baby wipe immediately and just wipe it back and then start again. It's okay if it doesn't go all the way to the edge, if it's not perfect, because we're going to be adding another layer to enhance these as well. But I just love this color. It looks so cute and so pretty. And there you have it once it's dry. So it did dry a nice light layer, and that pink matches the roses on there. And here I'm showing you how the transfer doesn't go all the way to the edge, which is totally fine. And there I added the half and half to that one as well. So I'm pretty happy with how the flowers look. And this is an example of if you use a gold leaf behind the resin instead of the blush chrome. So, you know, you get a little bit of a different effect, which I think is really interesting. And I like to show that sometimes. So it looks a little bit more warm, like it has warmer tones. Now I'm going in with aged brass wax. This is our Finnabair wax. And I take my brush and I just kind of dab it, and then I lightly go over that pink or that reddish tone. It just adds another area of interest. So you have the pink in the back, then you have the red on top, and then the gold to finish it off. And I think the combination of all three really complemented and gave these ornaments sort of a 3D effect, these glimmering effects. And then I just go around the edges with my finger and some of that wax as well, just to finish it off. We have several different metallics, several different colors you can choose from. I chose this one because it just warmed up the ornaments, and where the H2O transfers didn't go all the way to the edge, the wax sort of hides that a little bit, which is great. So even if you don't do it perfectly, you still have a way to give it a finished look and kind of hide any imperfections. That's what I love about stuff like this. Plus it's handmade, so it's not supposed to be absolutely perfect anyway. It's supposed to look handmade. So just keep that in mind when you're creating. I know I'm sometimes a little bit hard on myself even, but these really, really came out nicely. And even this little bow with the wax on it, I did go back with some of that red wine paint, and there's little berries on that bow. I don't know if you see, and I did dab a little bit of that red paint onto the berries just to make them stand out a little bit more, and it was perfect. And here is where the transfer doesn't go all the way to the edge, and you can see that I'm just sort of masking that or hiding that a little bit with this wax. And I like to use my finger because I feel like I have a little bit more control over where the wax goes, and it spreads it out really nicely too. A little bit of this wax goes a very long way. Now I'm going in with the fluid medium. This I also used in my ornaments previously. This is just a very thin sealer. It makes that resin just come to life and become very, very shiny. And that also makes all of the metallics that you used underneath and on top come to life as well. So it just adds a little bit of a shimmering effect. Now I use this very, very lightly. I like to do 2 coats on my ornaments. The second coat actually makes it even more shiny. So just put a thin layer on like you see me doing now. Let it dry. It dries within, I think, 15 minutes, and then you can go back in and add your second layer. Many of you have asked in the previous comments on the videos if they go back to back, and they do. And I'm here just demonstrating that for you so that you can see that they can be glued together. And this I'm showing where 2 layers on that surface versus 1 layer. You can see the one on the right is shinier. It's subtle. It's hard to see in the video sometimes, but the 2 layers do make it a little bit shinier. And I just love that. 3 is not necessary, I don't think. And this also helps seal that transfer so that it doesn't come off your surface as well. I also use the fluid medium to seal the back, just to make sure that that paint doesn't get scratched or come off as easily, because sometimes that happens, you know, when it's on a tree, it's a little bit sharp sometimes. So yeah, I do seal the back as well. And the final touch is adding this really pretty ruffly green ribbon. You can add lace, that's what I'm showing here, if you decide to. There's really lots of options, and I just like the thicker ribbon because I feel like it just looks so pretty and billowy on the top of these really pretty ornaments. So this is the color I went with. It was sort of a sage green. I do recommend, if you need to go and shop for a ribbon to match these, if you decide to make them, take the transfers with you or take the ornament with you to the shop and pick out the ribbon to match. You know, greens, there's so many variations of greens and so many variations of pinks and reds. That's what I would do if I were you. I had to buy mine online, but it worked out. So, so that was good. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about anything that I've done in this video so far. I am going to link the video I made previous to these, the first ornaments I made, in case you didn't see it, so you can kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about with the gold leafing and the other H2O transfers. I love your questions. I try to answer them to the best of my ability, and I really appreciate it. And I do have more ornament videos coming soon. So even let me know in the comments which ones you would like to see or what style. I'd be happy to do that for you. I really appreciate you watching today. Make sure to follow and subscribe to our channel to get more ideas and more inspiration this holiday season for your creativity and your trees and your decor. Thank you so much.